Alex Hormozy. When I look at that guy, he wears a vest, he wears Crocs, he downscales his lifestyle, a very simple life, goes gym, works in a cupboard, but his goal is to get to $1 billion. Why? I'm thinking, you're a slave to like...
Jason Graystone,
a wealth enthusiast and performance coach,
helping people achieve true financial and mental freedom.
If I was to go on YouTube, brand new account today, would you still say that's the place to put your attention?
Yeah, you could start a channel today and do what I've done.
What would be the steps?
So, and then the next step, give everything, because they can go and get better information than you're sharing on ChatGPT. You know, I'm a firm believer, the more you teach someone the same thing, the more they'll pay you to teach them again. We make 35,000 decisions a day in our head. Imagine the compound effect. All of those decisions that are made just based on what you think is the right thing to do.
I'm interested in your take on the Diary of a CEO episode with Daniel Priestley, who you spoke about being the entrepreneur, and then Gary Stevenson being the trader. You're kind of both of them in terms of how you've made your money. What's your take on that conversation?
I found it very difficult to watch.
Why was that?
Just because of Gary's...
Jason, welcome back to the show.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So the last one, we had a really good chat and we spoke a bit more about your backstory and what led you into the position you are. We were just chatting then, before we started recording, about how generally when you're around other people that have achieved sort of success similar to you and, you know, in terms of like their wealth building and their business success, and you just said, I feel like I never fit in. Tell us about that, because I think that's an interesting concept in itself.
I feel like I never fit in because I'm content with where I'm at, and a lot of people that I see aren't.
We're all broke, and all the rest of us.
It's not that, you know. I don't want to sound like a dick, but for the environments that I've been around, it's so obvious that a lot of these people are just chasing, but they don't know why they're chasing. They're not giving themselves enough credit for where they're at right now. And they feel like if they just slow down a little bit, that's it. The rug's going to get pulled from under them, or, you know, they're going to lose everything. And there's been a few times now where I've been in a room where there's a lot of people that appear to be successful, or they're raking in money, or, you know, raking it in. But actual freedom-wise, they don't feel free to me, and that's really down to a lot of it is mental freedom. So they're hustling away to try and impress someone else, or, you know, go to 10 million, 50 million just to prove an ex wrong, or an old boss wrong, you know, or something. And it's like, wow, that's a lot of work you've got to do to be a slave to someone's thoughts. Ooh. You know, and I
think this is quite a common thing that happens in a lot of successful people. So you usually find that the thing that got them successful was this need for they thought money would be the thing that would make them feel more confident, or it would provide them the things that they lacked. Security, right?
It's the same with me. Yeah, it was the same with me.
But that's what I was going to say, because it probably got you to a certain place, that mentality. But then what's different with you? Why have you been able to change when so many seemingly can't get out of that hamster wheel?
Because I think maybe it's the engineer in me, but I had a definition of what I thought my successful life would look like when I was young. So when I got there, I could actually sit back and go, oh yeah, this is it. I'm happy now. You know, and then if I do want to chase again and hustle again, I can, but I'm actually exercising gratitude for what I've got now. And I think a lot of people miss that. So like Alex Hormozy, for instance, you know, when I look at that guy,
we wouldn't trade places with him. It's like
I
just
feel
non-stop.
sad.
I get it.
And I see like a solemnness. And he wears a vest. He wears Crocs. He downscales his lifestyle. You know, had a very simple life. Goes gym. Works in a cupboard in his house. But his goal is to get to $1 billion. And why? You know, I'm thinking, you're a slave to like try and please and appease your dad, or prove your dad wrong, or something like that. And I get a sad feeling about that, you know, because it's like, That's a lot of sacrifice and effort that you're chasing for something that doesn't mean a lot to you.
Does it though? Could it just be that he enjoys that process? Of
Yeah,
things?
absolutely. I just think, well then, but then I enjoy my life. Why have a goal of $1 billion? You know, what's the relevance of the $1 billion? So that's the thing.
Yeah,
I think
just like people pick numbers.
It's being careful that you're not missing life. Like you're not sacrificing today's happiness for tomorrow's profit, because that never comes, and there's never enough. If you don't define, this is where I'm content, this is where I'm happy, you run the risk of just chasing forever, and then you get a health issue, or a scare in your health, and that's it. And what was it worth? So I just think being aware of what is important to you, not looking up to other people, defining what your values are and what success looks like to you, how much money you actually need to support the lifestyle that is important to you, and you're not buying things because other people have got them. And then you get a level of congruency, and then when you get congruency, you get confidence, you get freedom, mental freedom.
How do you stay consistently aware of that? And have you got habits? Is the practices? Is the things you've learned? Because I think that sounds great on a podcast, but what happens is, in reality, from marketing that we see in the street to going on TikTok, we've constantly got people telling us that this is success, and you need to buy this, and you need to do that, or your life's rubbish. And we're all surrounded by that, yourself included, I imagine, right? So how do you stay aware of what your definition is and be intentional about that?
Knowing what is important to me and what my values are. I think people are lost in terms of, like, they don't know who they are. I think that's the biggest problem. And if you don't know who you are, then you're led by other people. You get other people's opinions and social pressures and social idealisms, and you get all this stuff put onto you, and you start mapping out a life that you think is the right thing to do. And again, then you're not on your path, you're on someone else's path, or I'll give you an example. There was a time when I learnt to drive, obviously, when I was 17, and I said to my stepdad, like, shall I learn in an automatic car or a manual car? And he said, a manual car. And I was like, okay. I just accepted that. And he said, well, if you learn a manual, you can drive both. And I didn't really listen to the logic. I just thought, okay. So I learnt in a manual car. It took me twice as long to learn because it was more difficult. I paid twice as much in lessons because it took me twice as long. As soon as I passed my test, I drove an automatic car, and I've driven an automatic car, and now all cars are going automatic, right?
Well, now they're going driverless.
Exactly, right. But I know it's like a funny example, but
no, it's
there's a tiny element of resentment in that one decision that I just made without questioning, right? We make 35,000 decisions a day in our head. Imagine the compound effect of all of those decisions that are made just based on what you think is the right thing to do, and it's actually not aligned with who you are as a person and what you want in life. That's where people have midlife crises. That's where people start beating themselves up, putting themselves down, and going, oh shit, I'm not where I should be. Well, where should you be? Get in touch with what's important to you and what you actually want and what you need, and you'll find a lot more freedom that way than you will chasing someone else's dreams. Or
I think that takes a lot of courage for some people to have that confidence in not just knowing who they are and what they value, but living in alignment with that. Like, I think, for example, we hear a lot about like cancel culture and things like that. I think people are genuinely fearful to unapologetically say, this is what I believe, these are my opinions. But I don't feel like you are like that. Well, why do you think, or where do you get that confidence from when so many people struggle with it?
Yeah, confidence, in my opinion, comes from congruence. So when you are someone who genuinely thinks, speaks, does what you believe, you're congruent. So there's no imposter syndrome. There's no, doubt. I don't care what anyone thinks of what I say.
Have you ever? Have you had like imposter syndrome and self-doubt?
No.
Shit.
No.
Why?
because whenever I do something, it's aligned to what I truly believe.
But even like at school, like, did you not have people trying to pressure you into being a certain way, dress a certain way, anything like that?
Do you know what? I was thinking about that on the way here, and I was, I'm rocking up with blue Timberland boots on, right?
Yeah.
And I remember I used to just wear mad stuff, and there were people you could tell were uncomfortable with me doing that. But the reason they were uncomfortable, there was a guy called Joe. I used to rock up wearing like some Larry stuff, and I didn't care because I wanted to wear it. I would rock up, and he would go, "Oh, what you wearing?" But you could tell that he was insecure in himself. I could just see it. I could just tell that it was a problem he had. It's not my problem. I wear what I want. But he wanted to kind of bring me down for daring to be myself, and that seems to be what human beings do. I've never had that. I've always been congruent, and I think the best way to figure out if you're truly, because this authenticity word is bandied around a lot. Imagine there's a camera on you 24/7. It's all being broadcast onto Instagram Live in your house all day, every day. Aside from the bedroom stuff, maybe. But let's just say that it's broadcast. Everything that you do behind closed doors is now out on live. Is there anything you'd want the world not to see? Are you acting or behaving differently behind closed doors? Are you saying certain things about people? Are you slagging off your colleagues or your thing? Is there something you're ashamed of in yourself that you're embarrassed of that you don't want the world to see? If the answer is yes, then there's incongruency, because you're actually telling the outside world one thing and you're doing something else. You're believing something else and promoting something else. So the whole time you've got that there, you've got a friction on your ability to go and speak to a camera, or to go and stand on a stage, or to go and share a message, because there's a little voice inside your head going, "That's not you. Don't lie. Don't say that. It's not real." And that's why you see these cycles of people that go out online, promote something they're not, and they burn out. They go into burnout. They crash because they're like, "Oh, I can't maintain this. I'm going against something. There's a pull on me."
Yeah.
And
I did exactly that.
Right.
So I was that person who, a lot of my background is performing, and I knew how to stand on a stage and be someone else, but I didn't know how to do it as me. So I actually, I went through a time, I was about 27, my business I'd been running since I was 19, was struggling to make money, went through a big breakup with, a girlfriend that I've been with for nearly 7 years. And then I was just like, wow, everything I've been chasing that I thought would be success, it hasn't turned out that way. I was feeling like exhausted and like I wasn't making money. I was nearly 30 thinking I'm single. I need to start dating again. How do I even... there wasn't dating apps when I was in that last relationship. And I was like, oh, there's all this shit that I have to do. And I ended up getting with a business mentor who basically, he tried to make me be a mini him. He tried to make me more macho, more shouty, more, all these kind of things. Because he was like, that's how you get attention. That's how... It was basically like a Andrew Tate tribute act, basically. That kind of persona.
Yeah.
And it did get results. It did get attention.
It will do, quickly.
But it was quick, yeah. Internally, it just... And I really went through a crisis of who am I? Because I'm like, this stuff works, but it don't feel right. But then what do I do to be me? Will that work? And it was what you speak about there, about... I don't know if burnout is maybe a strong word, but certainly like an identity crisis.
Yeah. It's short-lived because you just can't maintain that. You just can't maintain that level of it's unauthentic. Like, it's inauthentic. It's not you. It's not and the whole time you're trying to go against who you are as a person, you're going to have this little voice in your head or a mechanism in your body that goes, "No, you can't do that anymore."
This is kind of a big part of your concept of always free, isn't it? Because a lot of people will think, and they'll look at you and they know you've been successful in trading and financially you've done very well. So I think a lot of people equate freedom to being financial. Yeah. But I know, is it that you've got 3 different ways of freedom? Do you want to just speak about what they are?
Yeah. So look, always, when people think about freedom, they typically think if you're financially free, you're switched on. You've cracked it.
Life's good.
And that is what allows you to be mentally free and all the rest of it, right? But the thing is, it's the financial freedom comes from managing your money how you should do it to become financially free. And if you're not mentally free and someone else is telling you to buy how to spend your money, you're never going to become financially free, right? So if you're, like you said, chasing someone else, buying that to keep up with them,
and he was telling me you need to get a Rolex watch next. He was literally telling me that.
Yeah. I've been in those boiler room environments where it's just, getting people to try and, we'll give you a Rolex, but or they promote the idea that you've got to go out and spend your wages this week, so that you're broke and you're constantly broke.
That was it. That was his mentality.
Right.
He says it keeps you hungry.
Right? So if you're not mentally free and you're allowing that to happen, you'll never become financially free. So becoming financially free is a byproduct of being mentally free, right? So where it all came from was, I was hanging around when I was 29. I didn't have much to do. And I started doing some networking. I started networking with entrepreneurs and seeing what they're up to. Over about a 3-year period, I saw people that were born into wealth, who had loads of money. They could do whatever they want, wherever they want, and they were drug addicts. And they were, very unhappy, trying to figure out who they were. They were like unanchored, just drifting in the wind, and completely lost. I also saw, so the money wasn't a freedom. I also saw people like entrepreneurs who great at making money, which we was talking about just before this show started. They churn money every single week. They're hustlers, and really driven, make loads of money, but have got no money. Every month they have to make that money, and it's like a hamster wheel, and it's like, well, you're not free. And then there were people who were like really happy in themselves, loved their job. 35 grand a year, right? And they were unhappy because they were unrewarded. There were certain limitations in their experiential freedom that they couldn't have because they're on such low wage. And I thought, well, it's not mental freedom. It's not financial freedom. And it's definitely not, business freedom or mobility freedom, because you can do whatever you want. It's a combination of all three. And when you have all three, which are all measurable and enhanceable, if that's a word, you get this feeling of being always free. It's a empty calendar and a full bank to cover the expenses that you want to do, that you choose to do. And I think
you really are living that, because quite last minute I invited you to this podcast. You're like, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
And then I just said to you, what's the rest of today? And you literally said, I'm off back to the back cave. Because I was like, it's a real life Bruce Wayne.
My calendar, it's just empty. This is the only thing in today. And
I'm honoured.
and I think the reason I love this is because this is a message to me. Yeah. This is a mission to me. I think people don't want to be rich. They want to be free. They just want to have a happy life. That's all we want. And to get there, it's not necessarily about money. I said the other day, imagine when you were 7 years old and you're out playing and you're on the bikes or playing football, whatever it is. And then your parents call you in and go, oh, Jay, it's time for a shower now. You got to go to bed and all that. And you think, when I'm older, when I'm an adult, no one's going to tell me what to do. I'm going to be free. And then you watch adults become adults and they move further and further away from freedom, further and further away from who they were at 7. And there was a time when I went to Disney in 2012, took my family there, and we went into the ticket in Florida ticket thing to stamp the ticket. And this old boy that worked there, he stamped the ticket and he went, go and be a kid again. And I just remember looking at everyone thinking, that is all everyone wants. They just want to, everyone here is ecstatic because they just want to be a kid for the day. And that's when it hit home. It was like, we're born with a freedom, we're born to be who we want to be. We just can't maintain it.
And we don't realise it as well. I was talking to a friend about this yesterday. It's that phrase, youth is wasted on the young. Like when we are 7, we, like you say, we're going, oh, it's not fair.
Of course.
And actually, so I think I love what you're saying there about actually tapping back into what we had then, but appreciating it. And I think that's one thing I'm really getting from you. And what we were speaking about at the beginning of this chat is about people are not appreciating the freedoms they already have right now.
Yeah.
And it's almost like that gratitude for what you have and the freedoms you have is then the catalyst to becoming more free, right?
That's exactly it. And I think, we all do have to learn, and we're impressionable as kids. We are moldable, and we're looking up to people, and we do take opinions, and we have to trust peers and adults, and don't touch the hot candle, and you won't believe them until you touch it, and you get burnt. And
press the button. Don't press the
button.
Yeah,
don't press it. You have to do certain things, and I get that. But the tragedy is, if we're not taught to make decisions and kind of synthesize paradoxes of opinions from people and align them to what's important to us, we run the risk of veering off track. And as you say, you go 1 degree off at 18, by the time you're in your 40s, you're flipping, you thought you was going to New York, you're in Miami or, Barbados, and you're way off track. And now you've got to reverse engineer back to being what you wish you always done. I wish I always done that. I wish I always did. Well, now you've got to do night school and hustle outside of your work hours to try and reverse back to doing that, what you should have done in the first place. And again, it's pleasing and appeasing mum and dad, showing off to an ex, proving an ex wrong, driven for all the wrong reasons, and before you know it, you've got this much time left, and
that's my biggest fear. Is that idea of getting to that place in life and just having all these regrets of what you could have done, should have done, wanted to do. I think that's horrible. So if somebody's listening now, let's make this tangible. What are the steps to becoming free in those different ways? And what I'm hearing is it starts with self-awareness, congruency, Absolutely. Knowing your values. What then, once we're getting more aware of this stuff, what's the next steps to make it actually become our life?
I think that's the most important thing, knowing your values, just really understand. So like I always say, like if you go through your phone and go through your camera roll, go through the years, there'll be a common theme of what you choose to take photos of. I'm not talking about selfies. I'm talking about like the mountains, animals, the kids, makeup, whatever it might be, there'll be a common theme there. And if you think about what moment in time a photo is, it's where you've been inspired to actually go, you smile and you go, I want to take a photo of that. It might be music, it might be bands, it might be whatever, but you're actually in a moment of inspiration coming truly from you. And there'll be a common theme there. So that's one thing. If you combine that with questions like, if I rang your friend and asked them, what would they call you for? What are you the go-to person for? What would you be the most reliable person that they would ring you for? What do you always bring up in conversation when you're out with your friends? What would you do Monday if you didn't need money? What would be the first thing you did? I always say, what would your business look like if you didn't need money? What would that be? And if you answer all of those questions and you do them exercise on the phone, you'll have a really solid clue as to what you're here meant to be doing, what you're meant to be doing. And then the next step is to build a vocation, build a business around being an extension of you. Now, we're in a world today where you can do that. You can build a business in anything, and monetize anything. So when you do that, you then feel free. Because what is freedom to most people? Getting out of a job. Well, create a job that isn't a job. Create something where you don't subordinate to the idea of retirement, or you don't need to escape to get drunk, or I've got to get on holiday, or, I've got to take drugs, drink, all this kind of stuff, right? Yeah.
There's a concept that I speak about, which is how you get happiness. And I believe there's kind of like two ways. One is through fulfillment and another is through pleasure. And what I mean by that is if you list the stuff that brings us pleasure, it's like chocolate or it's like nights out, alcohol, porn, those kind of things. Yep. And then there's fulfillment, which is doing something that lights you up, something that's meaningful, maybe learning a new skill, those kind of things. And what I try and say to people is it's not about demonizing pleasure. Like a bit of chocolate now and then, it's quite nice to have that and get happiness from that. But what I observe is I think, and this is to your point, when a lot of people look at where they're getting happiness from in their life, it's predominantly from pleasure. It's getting to the weekend, it's getting on that holiday, it's having that chocolate. And I think if you're mainly getting your happiness from those things, there's then a compound effect that leads into what you're saying about then having regret, and because your health's not going to be great if you're drinking regular. Do you know, it's that kind of stuff.
there is. It's a spiral, but I don't demonize any of it. Like I just think the more important thing is recognizing that you're trying to escape something to get to it, right? So not worried about like having the treats. Our chocolate's my kryptonite, man. But
It feels triggered. It feels seen right now.
yeah, but it's the feeling of needing to escape something. That is it, right? So there's, you could be in a job, and the reason you want to escape is because I don't even promote you have to escape your job. It's about optimizing your job so it's aligned with your values. So like if you do a time study, for instance, where you track how you're spending every hour of your week, you could do that in your job, you could do it in your personal time. 40% will be at sleep, and then the rest, there'll be categories of tasks that you're doing. And what you can then do is prioritize or list that in order of how much time you spend doing the most thing. And what you'll find is the things that you love to do and choose to do and would do even if you wasn't being paid, arguably, will be the minority of that list. And the majority of that list will be things that just make you feel busy, resentful, a little bit frustrated. And that is typically what you find when you do these time studies. But then you have a list, and what you can then do is prioritize delegating, automating, systemizing the things that you aren't inspired to do, and you just have to do them, must do them, should do them, those kind of statements. You can start prioritizing delegation of those things and then focusing more time on the things that you're really inspired to do. And then it starts to not feel like work. It starts to not feel like a business, right? So when I say build a business as an extension of you, the next trap is they start building a job. And then it's like, I've got to do all this stuff that I hate doing, and why did I want to do this, and maybe I was wrong. But you're not building it the right way. You need to put 80% of your time into things that you're high value tasks that you love, that don't feel like work, and then sacrifice some of the profit to delegate all of that crap that you don't want to do, that someone else is really good at.
So based on that, are you saying that it's impossible to become completely free being in a job?
For me, if you can cover, so if you've identified what your lifestyle costs are that make you happy, and your job, you can structure your job in a way that doesn't feel like work, and you love it, right? And that is bringing in enough money to cover those lifestyle costs. At that point in time, you're either really happy, or you're not giving yourself enough credit for what position you're in because you're looking up to someone else still, right? But that is a real great position to be in, and most people don't have that. The financial freedom side of it is just, so let's just say that you're in that position. Well, what do you want to retire for? What do you want to? Because you just mentioned fulfillment. You only get fulfillment from service and helping other people. That's the only feeling we get of fulfillment.
You don't
right?
get sat on the sofa
watching
Netflix.
No, right. So you want to do that for the rest of your life. You don't have this idea, one day I'm going to escape this crap, because you don't look at it like that anymore.
Right, yeah.
So the financial freedom side of it is how you manage your income so that you could, if you had an accident or you had to stop or you needed to look after a loved one, that you could if you wanted to. And the financial element is just how much time you can buy into the future based on that current snapshot of your living costs. So the financial element's like the least important if you do the first two correctly. I don't want to. I want to die with nothing. My financial element is not going to provide legacy income for kids who are going to become entitled and spoiled little pricks. It's going to be all gone.
Yeah.
And I'm optimizing my life for life. I'm not optimizing it for death.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think about that whole legacy piece? I guess it's, you are a father, and there is something there about providing for them after you're gone. But beyond that, I personally believe there's a lot of people say it on podcasts because it sounds good. Like, what's your legacy? What are you leaving behind? But for me and my beliefs, I'm like, it's about, am I really optimizing my life for now? And am I making sure that, I'm not always thinking about, well, when I'm dead, people say this about me. Like, because then I might do stuff, again, coming back to your earlier point, for other people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So over the years, I've been I've been in conversation with lots of people that have told me things like what you said about, you're congruent. You seem like you're living and breathing what you. I think being content is a really important thing, and I think why I wrote the book and the things that I talk about on these podcasts, that is a legacy. If people could just understand this and build a life this way, amazing. You're going to have a better life. I 100% guarantee you'll have a better life if you adopt what I'm talking about here. In terms of my own goals and aspirations, I have zero. I've got no goals. Wow. I don't have any goals. I don't have any aspirations. I'm not striving for anything. I've got no interest. I just want to live every day like today, tinker about with my guitars and, mow the lawn, and that's it.
You should have brought the guitar. We could have had a listen now.
No,
could have had a sing song.
I would have. You don't have to tell me to do that twice.
Yeah.
But So,
I love it. And it feels so counter to what we hear so often from people in the online space. You should always have goals and legacy this and
and you should have goal if you're not where you want to be, right? But the trick is to be sure that it's where you want to be.
Yeah.
That's the key. That is the key.
Yeah.
Be who you want to be. And no one else.
Let's talk about, obviously you've mentioned the book. I'd love to know a bit more, for my own selfish reasons, about the process of writing a book, publishing a book, and it's become a bestseller, right? Do you want to just talk about what are the accolades? Because I know it's only just recently come out, literally weeks ago, right?
Yeah, so it launched at midnight on the 23rd, 24th of July.
Yeah.
And by 3:00 that day, it was in number one.
Wow.
And which was incredible. We took over, we were in 7 categories: investing, personal finance, business, entrepreneurship, wealth management, and all these kind of stuff. Kiyosaki, Benjamin Graham, Stephen
They were all
Bartlett,
gone.
they were all, and it was bizarre to see.
Tell us the how, for anyone that's a budding author that wants to do what you've done.
Oh, don't do it the way I did it.
Oh, really?
Well, the launch maybe, but I took way too long to write a book. 7 years. I was dicking around with it, to be honest. And it wasn't imposter syndrome or anything like that. For me, I was building a YouTube channel, and everything I do is about efficiency and
a book takes time.
Efficient use of time. Yeah. And this idea that I would have a physical book that I could sell 1-to-1 or give 1-to-1 or whatever, or I could just do a YouTube video and reach 200,000 people in a month or something. It just didn't. I was like, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow.
And tomorrow became 7 years.
Yeah. But having said that, I believe that the 7 years, I think everything happens at the right time for a reason. And
because it wouldn't be the same book.
Wouldn't be the same book. It wouldn't. Some of the relationships that I've built wouldn't have been the same. Some of the reinforced results that I've got from some people who have, adopted these principles over the 7 years, maybe I wouldn't have had that much weight. Dr. John DeMartini, who wrote the foreword, done me solid on the foreword, and maybe that relationship wouldn't have been as flourished for him to say such nice things about the book. So I don't regret it taking 7 years, and I think the perception of value after taking 7 years maybe added to the hype of the book. 7 years in the making sounds better than I started writing this in July or whatever.
That's me.
May or whatever.
Right, we need to put it back, Helen. We'll do it in 7
No,
years.
just get it out. Like if I had to tell anyone to do it, I'd just get it out. Like just do it.
What about the actual launch? Anything you learned from this launch that you were like, that really helped us? And is there anything you did that you're like, actually, we wouldn't do that again?
One thing that I can do well is launching stuff. I've worked with Daniel Priestley for many years. He wrote a book called Oversubscribed, and
one of my favourite books.
He actually wrote about me in that book. So
does he?
Yeah,
does he name you in it?
I'm in the book. Yeah.
That's one of my favourite books.
Right.
See, I've clearly got ADHD or whatever, and I just like skim on everything. Okay.
Yeah, I'm in the section under contrarian is okay or something like that, and it's basically going against the grain. It's telling people the opposite of what they expect, which is basically what we've been doing. This whole podcast, and then building a demand that is greater than supply, and maybe that's from my investment trading background that I'm just able to really do that and understand that, but also the financial situation that I'm in means that I have an advantage where I don't want to sell to I can just say, you know what, there's 10 available, not 100. Because the moment you make a product infinitely available, it becomes a commodity, the price goes to zero, and that's what I see people do all the time. So you take those principles, apply it to a book launch, and it's like, you know, some hyperbole. This is going to be the best book launch ever, you know, get competition, we build a community, we go and meet lots of people, go on lots of different podcasts, basically just raise the demand for this book so great that, you know, we're almost busting at the seams, and then go for it. But I don't think there's anything I would have done differently on the book launch. I think
You didn't immediately do audiobook, is that right?
I still haven't.
And are you gonna? Was that a strategic move?
Yeah, I'm going next month to record the order. It wasn't strategic, but what it was is, I mean, I was changing parts of this book after I'd submitted the final. You know, the 2 days before it had to be submitted, I woke up in the night still changing things, and and there are still bits that I want to just refine. So the audio book, I didn't want to sit and record a 6-hour audio when I might have to do it again or change it. So what I want to do is put the book out, let it get tested, get any feedback, any kind of comments.
Nice.
And then obviously the book has to be optimized for Audible anyway. You have to change certain words. So part of that process, I'll include any new bits. But I just wanted to be sure of that. You know, I wanted to be sure so that the Audible version's final and I never have to record that again. Because, people probably be sick of my voice.
Yeah. Let's talk YouTube. I have just signed up to your course because I want to double down on YouTube. I see the potential there. And I have to say as well, just starting that course with you, the attention to detail in how you actually, it's not just the information you're giving us, but the way in which you've done it and the setup you've got and how you've filmed it is really, really brilliant. I'm really impressed and really excited to dive into it. Why, as somebody who's made millions and you know, made a lot of your money through trading and things like that, why have you gone down the route of personal branding, and why specifically have you put so much focus on YouTube as a platform?
Yeah, so first of all, you know, you say my course. Just for anyone listening, this is not something I'm ever running again.
Yeah, you can't get in.
So it's not my thing. The reason I want to do it is because I've seen such a dramatic shift in the patterns and the algorithm and the way that I spot patterns for a living. Like, that's what I do, right?
Yeah.
So for me, you say that the attention to detail. Someone else told me yesterday, my attention to detail is what popped on that exact thing.
Yeah, really
it's really just analytics and being able to, I think that's the advantage that I had on YouTube as opposed to a YouTuber, because I'm an investor and a trader. So I just looked at the analytics after 8 years of doing it. Spent about 6 months analyzing what worked, what didn't work, you know, and really optimizing. And then we created this one video. It took me 8 years to go to 50,000 subscribers, and then 1 year to go to almost 500,000.
Wow.
So it just proved my analytics, you know, and then I replicated it. Then I tested it with other people, and it just works and works and works. So I decided, I was so excited about it that I thought, you know, I'll do a test group. And that was it. And then we just proved the concept. And then I was speaking at an event for Paul Avins. I don't know if you know Paul Avins. And I told them about it. And they basically begged me to do this thing again, to teach them again. And I was like, well, it's not my thing. Like, I'm not selling YouTube courses. But I decided to do it. We threw in a few other people, which is when you jumped on and, you know, said this is the last time I'm going to do it. But I think the going back to your question, I've been investing since I was 22 years old, you know, and I've made a living. I've built my life from making good investments and being right more than I'm wrong. I think this year we invested a significant amount of money in a YouTube studio. From anyone looking from the outside in, I think that should pluck your ears up to see someone who's an investor invest heavily into YouTube. That is a great move, and I'm going really serious with it. You know, this is going to be it. And with YouTube becomes a personal brand. It allows me to amplify my message. And this, as I say, I don't have goals, but I have a mission. And YouTube is the best, most efficient way to get my voice across to as many people as I possibly can with the what I believe to be the most important information that people can hear. So
would you say that's for somebody starting now, that because obviously you've got years on YouTube? If I was to go on YouTube, brand new account today, would you still say that's the place to put your attention?
Yeah, you could start a channel today and do what I've done.
What would be the steps in terms of the go-to things you must do to give you the best chance of getting the views, getting your message out there?
Long end-to-end tutorial giving everything you know away for free.
Long being
at least an hour to 2 hours of your brain, an end-to-end solution, an outcome for someone who is going to spend potentially 2 hours with you, building trust with you, and don't hide anything back. This isn't like watch till the end and then you can sign up to my thing. This is just give everything, right? Because they can go and get better information than you're sharing on ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Right? But they're not going to go and get the result. So your job is to show them that you can help them, share it so much that they think this person really is not hiding anything. That lowers the barrier of trust, like of making a sale. So if you did want to sell to them, you could. But they're not then going to watch that and then go, oh, that was good. I'll go and watch another 2-hour video from someone else saying the same thing. They're just going down deep into whatever it is you're going to sell now, right? So all you've got to do, content is just about getting people to spend a long time with you.
That's the one goal.
That's it. Get them to spend a long time with you, and then give everything away for free.
I'm so glad you're saying that about give everything away for free, because this is a bugbear of mine. I know a lot of coaches teach, like, if you're going to do a free masterclass, webinar, whatever, it's the whole, like, what is it? Teach them the what and the why, but then, sell them on the how. And I've always said, no.
I don't like that.
Really? Okay.
I don't like that.
That's very much in alignment with what I think, because...
Have you seen my Instagram stories?
Exactly.
I'm not
you're just giving everything, aren't you? You've got the whiteboard out.
Don't be a gatekeeper. Just like, this is what you have to do. So the question you should have in mind when you create a YouTube video is, how can I create this video in a way where they will not need me after this video?
Yeah.
And put that energy into the video and see what you create.
Because they still will need you. Because this is the thing, ChatGPT gives the answers, just like you said.
Yep.
So information is no longer the asset. Like, we can all get that for free anywhere. What we need is support.
Story.
We need account. We need things to be reinforced. We need to be encouraged. Like, and when you're the person that's shown and they've got proof of concept, they're going to come to you, right?
Because you're a human and you've got accountability. Potentially you've got some tools to help them, and they just trust you. I've done it so many times. I've binge watched a YouTube video tutorial on something, and then I just find the contact details. I employ them, ring them. Can you teach me? I want to work with you, because that's how we are. That's what we want. So the information is just useless. They're paying for a hand holding, an implementation. That's what they want to pay for, and they'll pay you could teach someone. I'm a firm believer. The more you teach someone the same thing, the more they'll pay you to teach them again. And I see that with Tony Robbins. I see it with, they've got these deep funnels where you might think you're going to unleash the power of with Tony Robbins for a weekend. There's people deep in the funnel paying like 70 grand to go to Africa just to touch him, and
then they'll pay it again to do
it again. So what I realized is I started writing this newsletter back in 2018. And I sat down every Sunday, wrote a 5,000 word email, right? Because I was trying to empty my brain every Sunday. I did that for 86 Sundays. And someone said, I'm dyslexic. Is there an audible version? I then read the newsletter as a podcast. That became my podcast. And then someone was like, well, how can we work with you more? How can you teach this stuff? So I then just put all of those newsletters into a program and sold the program. Yeah. And it's the same
They've had it for free all that time.
Over and over again, but they're now paying more and more for it,
But there's value in that, like you say.
Of course there's value in it, because it's getting them closer to the implementation, which is all they're paying for. Yeah. They're not paying to be
That's what I always say. People are paying for a result. They're paying for an outcome.
An outcome.
Information doesn't give them that.
That's it. And ChatGPT will not get them an outcome.
Yeah.
Which is, we spoke about AI, but that's it. Outcome focused solutions. That's what people want. Not loads of information. I think we're gonna see content creators just go really specific on how quickly you can get someone A to B. How quickly, like do this, do this, do this. Really practical, not fluffed up like courses with loads of different fluffy elements. It's just they don't want that.
Get me to the outcome as
yeah,
quick
just
as
get
possible.
me to it. Yeah, yeah.
You spoke there about how you know made your day job is being a trader and so on, but obviously you are an entrepreneur with the YouTube, personal branding, and all the other stuff that you do. I'm interested in your take on the wealth divide conversation. We had obviously the Diary of a CEO episode with Daniel Priestley, who you spoke about being the entrepreneur, and then Gary Stevenson being the trader. You're kind of both of like them in terms of how you've made your money in a way, right? You've made your money betting, and you've also made your money as an entrepreneur. What's your take on that conversation?
I found it very difficult to watch.
Really?
Really difficult to watch.
Why was that?
Just because of Gary's... I used to like what Gary was talking about. I think he's stepped out of his lane a little bit, but it's quite apparent to me that Gary still has a lack of mental freedom around money. So he is still associating money with greed and rich people and control and all this kind of stuff.
Do you believe that is that part of his persona and his marketing? Do you think
a lot of
does
it is
think
PR?
that?
Yeah, I think a lot. I think someone has gone. If you're going to launch a book and do a big campaign, you've got to polarize people, and the way you polarize people is get the masses on board, tax the rich. And there's a saying: "Careful what you wish for." And I can see it going really bad.
Can you?
Yeah. We're already seeing there's 4 billionaires left the country already this year. Something like 900 to 1,000 millionaires per month are leaving, and they have done for the last 10 months. The top 1% pay 30% of the company's taxes or the country's taxes. I see a country as a company. And it just doesn't take a genius to figure out, well, if they go, this is really going to go to crap. And it's like the masses are shooting themselves in the foot by getting on board with this idea that you've got to penalise wealthy people. So I get where Gary's coming from in terms of the super, super rich, stagnant wealth, like Russian people coming over, buying a big commercial office building, it sits empty, and now our house prices are going up because there's not available, all that. I get that.
Yeah.
But you need to have a solution as well. You need to have some kind of solution. You can't just promote to get people on board.
Because that's what it feels like. There is no solution. It's shit. Tough luck.
Yeah.
We've all just got to be annoyed and vote, basically. Vote differently or whatever.
Exactly that. And the problem with that is as soon as you manipulate someone into voting, they're then not following their own values because they don't understand. Then it's all... This is why no one stays in power. If you look at... I've done studies on this. If you look at who's in power for the last 100 years... You'll see like a block of blue, a block of red, block of blue, block of red, right?
Yeah,
and if you put it all together, it's exactly the same. Wow. If you compare who's in power in the White House, in Australia, in the UK, you put them all together, it's exactly the same amount of time that they're in power because we go through these cycles of pushing too hard one way and then we want the other thing and then it pushes the other way and then we want the other thing, it pushes the other way. And then they promise this and they promise this and they, and it's the same thing. So to me, voting is a complete waste of time because it's so short-sighted.
Yeah,
it's so short-sighted. It's just a cycle of nothing. It means nothing.
Well, that data that you've just provided there, that should be there. That's conclusive. Like we all just need to just agree.
It doesn't work.
There's a waste of time.
Yeah, it doesn't work. It's again, it's short-lived.
And it also takes people's energy and attention and focus, like you say, because it's like a football team, isn't it? They get so behind their side, and passionate about it, and argue with people in the pub or whatever.
Yeah.
Imagine putting that same time, energy, and effort into actually improving your life.
Yeah, exactly. Or just appreciating everything,
appreciating. That's Jason's thing.
just appreciate like the good and the bad and the good and everything's there to serve you in some way, and you just empower yourself and build a life that where you're not swung from left to right and you're not polarized in any way and things don't matter, because you're in control, you're the driver. As soon as you're not in control, it's much easier to just go, the country's going to shit, or I blame this prime minister, because it's easier to do that than it is to just go, I need to get my life in order and feel like I'm in control a little bit.
It's that, isn't it? It's It's the easier option, and I think that's the problem that often is the downfall. There's that phrase, isn't there, like easy choices equals a harder life, harder choices equals an easier life, and I think that's what you're referring to there. Is, you know, it is easier to just blame and complain and vote, you know, but actually it's a lot harder to say, irrespective of the inequalities, the things that are unfair, the difficulties, the challenges, I'm still here, I'm still alive. That means I've still got a chance to improve my life.
There's no inequalities with successful people. That's what I've found. You know, whether they're gay, black, you know, whatever it might be, whatever racism or polarization there is going on out there, you find the successful people who are gay, black, straight, fat, whatever, they don't see it.
Yeah,
they don't care. They're like, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist because they've taken control of their life, and they're just appreciative of how the world works, you know. So yeah, I mean, I saw, I can't remember who it was, maybe Denzel Washington say, you know, there's no racism is a thing if you let it be a thing. Wow. And it's powerful, because if everyone had that state of mind where they were in control of their perceptions, which you are, you're just so much more empowered. You can just enjoy life. So yeah, we're going pretty deep now.
Jason, this is brilliant. I've got some sort of general life questions that I ask all my guests towards the end of the show. So we're going to dive into them now. The first one is, what is some of the best advice you've received in your life, and why?
Best advice I've received in my life, and why? From a business standpoint, I had the boss called George Turnbull, and he was my mentor when I was like 18, 19. And we used to like have debates all the way to work in his van. Like, we used to argue, but I loved it. It was like a real solid debate. And he said something to me. He said, to be in business, you have to be in business. And I didn't really know what he meant at the time. But now, you know, after looking at so many businesses over the years, people give up a bit too, or they wait for everything to be perfect, or they, you know, all the green lights have to be green before they leave the house and all this kind of stuff. When in actual fact, you just have to keep being in business. You know, you have to keep doing it. And if something goes wrong, you have to keep doing it. And the moment you give up, obviously the business, you're not in business anymore. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of people who have this idea that business should be perfect, or I'm a failure because I'm not like that person on Instagram who appears to be doing well. Actually, you just have to keep being in it. Everyone's making it up, you know, and no matter what level you go to, they're all struggling. Yeah. And when I say struggling, I'm talking about they're trying to think how they can blag the next level. I'm talking about Richard Branson. You know, he's still trying to figure out how to pitch to NASA or something, you know, and make himself look bigger than he is to get respect from people like that. So it never ends, you know. So to be in business, you have to be in business. That's
and enjoy that, I guess, isn't it? It's about enjoy playing the game of business.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's what's going to keep you in it.
Yeah, exactly that. So that's probably probably a solid one for this podcast.
Okay, the other side is worst advice, something that might have been well-meaning, but actually turned out to be bad advice, and why?
Time is money. Time is money, because that's such a lie. I mean, if you believe time is money, then you're going to become very frustrated, because there's only a certain amount of hours in the day. So even if you charge £100 an hour, £200 an hour, you know, there's going to be a point where you would happily accept less money just to have more time. You see this with personal trainers, you see it with coaches all the time, where they just max out and then they're like, fuck, I'd rather just have less money and more time. Money to me is time. I look at money as how much time I can buy into the future. And when you shift it that way round, it's like, do you know what? I won't buy that Lambo because that's 100 grand. My current living costs are 50 grand a year. That's 2 years that I can buy. Instead of getting that Lambo, I'll just put that in my bank and pay for my living costs, and now I don't have to work for 2 years. So it's a bit of a different view, but that car doesn't mean more to me than having 2 years of just sitting at home thinking about what I would love to do and creating stuff that's really important to me. So yeah, time is money. That's not true. Money is time.
Okay, next question. I think often when we listen to podcasts like this, we can put the guest on a bit of a pedestal because they're obviously being interviewed about their successes, what they've achieved, what they've done. But it's my belief, and you kind of touched upon it there with the Richard Branson angle, which is we all always have challenges. We have things that we're struggling with. So if you're happy to share, what's the thing right now that you're struggling with, and how are you working on overcoming it?
Yeah. So in my book, there's about a third of the way through, there is a section that just says, put the book down and question me now. Make sure that you believe that I can help you, and make sure that this is aligned with where you want to go. If not, throw this book in the bin, And I try and be as transparent about that as possible. Where I'm at now is kind of what you just said. We have these good times create difficult times create good times. When I was 7, really my perception was I had a lack of security. So I was driven to make money because money created security. I wanted balance, I wanted stability, and now I've got a life where it's so stable. Now I have kids, so I think that we value most what we perceive to be missing most as a kid. Well, my kids have had everything, right? They've never had to struggle, right? So now what they want is struggle. So they want struggle, right? So they don't want my help. They don't want me to do anything. They don't want me, dad to do this, dad to do that. But at the same time, they don't necessarily have all the skills they need to go out and do what they need to do, right? So I'm really focused. For you? It's hard for me. But again, this is kind of why I've shifted towards like wanting to die with zero. I don't want to think. My goal is to teach them, and I'm not saying like they're amazing kids. They're doing their own thing and all the rest of it. But I've become consciously aware that we value what we perceive to be missing most. So now they don't value money, but now they need money. So now they're struggling, and now it's like, well, we don't want your help, Dad, either, because we want to struggle, right? So now it's teaching them how to navigate and deal with paradoxes and build a life, do the right thing, and it's interesting just watching it all unfold. I'm appreciative of it, and their kids will be rich and their kids' will be broke, and and that cycle will continue.
Yeah. Jason, this has been brilliant, genuinely brilliant. If people have heard about you for the first time, where can they connect with you?
If you like what you heard on this podcast, just go to alwaysfree.com and you'll be able to get the book and connect with me on there.
Final question is, what is your personal definition of success?
Being who you want to be. Yeah, 100%. Do it, and I know that's such a simple thing to say, very difficult to be. And if you can do that, that's the goal in life.
Jason, thank you.